So I'm Danielle Maestretti, the Utne Reader librarian, and this is Shelf Life for the week of February 25th. We're going to start today with High Country News, which is a magazine of Western politics and culture. They do a lot of great environmental coverage in particular. One other thing that I've really come to appreciate about High Country News is that they're doing a lot of in-depth and investigative reporting in an era when that's falling by the wayside, unfortunately. And to wit, they have a piece in their new issue about a former nuclear weapons plant in Colorado that has now been deemed a wildlife refuge. And the history of the plant and what it made has literally been buried under this refuge. And there's a couple of diehard activists and politicians working to preserve the history of the place in hopes that that'll provide a little more insight into what's in the soil, what's going to be seeping into the groundwater, and what have you. A really disturbing investigation by High Country News, but really interesting, definitely worth checking out. Next up we have, on a little bit of a lighter note, The Art of Eating, which is just a beautiful magazine edited and published by Edward Bear, that really just exudes his passion for food, production of food, farming of food, purchasing, preparing of food. And in this issue, he takes on the sort of lost art of American charcuterie. We're more familiar with the cured stuff in this country, the salamis, the prosciuttos, but he's sort of like, hey, what's going on with head cheese? All kinds of things that sound really gross, but they can be written about in a really mouth-watering way. Head cheeses and liver mousses and things like that. So they sort of go on a jaunt across the country to find the people who are so passionate about this stuff that they're making it and marketing it and selling it. And there are recipes too, in case you want to make your own head cheese. I'll just give you a heads up that there's actually no cheese. It's more to do with head meat from a pig, and boiling a head and all kinds of crazy things that you can do if you have a really big pot and a head of a pig. Next up is Witness, which is the magazine of the Black Mountain Institute at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. It is fat because it is published only once a year. It's about 250 pages. And this is a really, really awesome issue that's full of writings from and about Africa. I particularly enjoyed a piece by Chris Abani. He's a pretty well-known Nigerian writer, and I tend to stay away from writers writing about writing. It can become dull very quickly. But he tells some interesting stories from his childhood, and he's a brilliant storyteller, as anybody who's read him knows. And sort of talks about writers and humanity and telling stories, and it's a really actually very short essay, very disciplined, very neat, definitely worth looking up. Finally, we have Red Pepper, which is a British magazine of radical social politics, and when I say radical, I mean radical. They've had a redesign this year, and they've been doing better work than ever, in my opinion. One of the great things that they do is they have these guerrilla guides. We reprinted one of them in our new issue. That's all about how activists can get the media's attention. And this is a really helpful guide about how activists can run meetings. We've all been to meetings where everybody wants to talk and everybody thinks they know how to run the ship, and there's a lot of really interesting tips in here just about group dynamics and how to mix up the structure of a meeting so that quieter types and louder types can all get the chance to talk, and then some more basic principles like how to get people to show up and how to get people to stay. Not a lot about what to feed people to get them to stay, which is sort of one of the more important things for me personally, but I think people can figure that out on their own. So anyway, definitely worth checking out. I know they publish their guerrilla guides online, so we'll check that out at their website. And that's it. I guess we'll see you next week.
No animals.
No animals. I didn't find any.
Where's the web traffic go?
I know. I thought it might become tiresome if I did it every week.